Welcome back to Vinny's Aquatics. All right, guys, make sure you get your pictures of your aquariums in by October 14th. Send them to vinnysaquariums@gmail.com. Send 6 photos, and we'll let the judging begin. Now, what I want to talk about today is some weird aquarium stories I've seen. The first one is a fish pedicure. Yep, a fish pedicure. This is a trendy way that people use to exfoliate their feet. So these people, they go to a fish spa and they soak their feet in a container full of tiny fish to consume all the dead skin cells. It sounds pretty gross to me, but whatever. The vats are filled with the red gara, also known as the doctor fish or the nibble fish. According to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, they could pose a threat to native plant and animal life if released into the wild because this fish is not native to the United States. Also, fish pedicures do not legally meet the definition of a pedicure. Now, this has already been banned in 14 states. This is another thing. I don't understand why people are doing this. There's got to be a better way. I mean, let's think about it. You're putting your feet into these tubs of water with these fish, so it's not chlorinated water. And do they change the water every time somebody does this? Or are you just sharing a foot bath with everybody who goes in to get this procedure? This, in my opinion, is a little disgusting. Hey, the poor fish. I feel bad for the fish, to be honest. All right, so now that we got this one out of the way, let's see what other weird things people are doing with aquariums and fish. Let's kick that intro. We've all heard of drinking games like beer pong. I'm sure some of us have played, probably most of us. But this is called the catfish drinking game. All right, let me explain. In 2016, this guy got really drunk and he goes to the emergency room. So that evening, this 20-year-old guy, they wouldn't release his name. I don't blame him for not wanting his name out there. He was partying with his friends in the Netherlands, and he decided it'd be a good idea to swallow live fish. First, he swallowed several goldfish that were taken from a home aquarium, and then he gulped down a small catfish, a bronze cory, like you see here. It's a toxic creature with spines. So this dullard, he decided he was gonna swallow this, like this guy right here. Not for nothing, but this kid's parents should be ashamed of him. This kid, he just annoys me. Look at him. So, needless to say, the catfish got stuck in this guy's throat. He was choking, he was throwing up blood and beer, but the fish was stuck. So his drunk friends tried to do the Heimlich on him, but they were drunk, so they didn't know what they were doing. And the man tried to wash the fish down with beer, ice cream, and honey. After several hours, he goes to the hospital. Because, I mean, yeah, I'm choking on a catfish. I'm still going to hang out and party, right? And so delicate surgery ultimately removed the dead catfish that you're seeing here, that is actually preserved in the Natural History Museum to celebrate this man's stupidity. This one I really enjoyed. This is robot guppies and robot fish in general. Now, there's a certain guppy that when he gets angry, his eyes turn black. So, in order to study this, in 2018, they took a dead specimen, they made a silicone replica. They were incredibly realistic, and they had either silver or black eyes. They would position them over food and use a small motor to give them lifelike movements. Now, what happened was, the smaller guppies approached the food when the robot had silver eyes. However, a dark look communicated what researchers called honest aggression, the guppy's absolute readiness to fight. It also meant the guppy was guarding a worthy resource. Now, when the real guppies were bigger, they beat up the robot. And this was to loot the resource and thrash a smaller fish that dares to use the look. It remains unknown how guppies flood their eyes with black. Now, MIT, on the other hand, came up with the soft robotic fish, aka SoFi. Scientists designed this fish to solve several problems that bedevil oceanic robotics. The problem one is communication. Underwater vehicles are typically tethered to a boat because radio waves don't do well in waters. So what SoFi's inventor have opted for is to use sound instead. Problem two is electrical motors. Now SoFi is using air and oil for locomotion. The SoFi's tail contains two hollow chambers that pump and injects with water, and all you do is cycle the water back and forth. That causes the undulation and the wiggling of the tail. Now look at this. It's a PlayStation controller. They use this to pilot it from about 70 feet away. Now, look at how realistic this thing is. I don't want to bring anybody down, but we got robots in the sea. We got robotic guppies over here. We all know what's coming next. We all know it. The Terminators. They're coming. It's only the next step in evolution. Again, not for nothing, but the first Terminator was a great movie. Have you seen this steaming hunk of garbage that they put out as hopefully the last Terminator movie? If you haven't seen it, just save yourself. Don't go. It's terrible. And now we got one of the coolest, the abandoned great white shark. So in 2012, there was a wildlife sanctuary that was closed down outside of Melbourne, Australia. The operator was supposed to preserve a species of giant earthworms, but instead he was caught running in a illegal animal park, almost like Jurassic Park, it sounds like. One of the creatures that was definitely not an earthworm was the great white shark. I wonder what led people to know that. The enormous predator was supposed to stay there temporarily while its real home was being prepared elsewhere. Now let me ask you, I was always taught that you can't keep a great white in captivity, so I don't know what they're talking about when they say it's a real home. But, however, when the new owners took over, they just kept the shark. So this park was closed down because of this shady business. The animals were handed over to the RSPCA, and at this point, the shark story gets muddy. Not only was it left behind at a worm sanctuary, but somehow it ended up in a tank of formaldehyde. Like, how does that happen? Has that ever happened to you? Have you ever come home and seen your tank just filled with formaldehyde? I don't think so. The shark tank was downright creepy. The corpse was just hanging motionless in the green water, and it became an internet sensation after a couple urban explorers found it. So they finally took it out, and I still want to know, is there an underground market for great white sharks? And why? Who put the formaldehyde in the tank? And somebody's got to answer those questions. On a lighter note, this is about one of my favorites, Otto the octopus. This was a 6-month-old, 2-foot, 7-inch octopus at the Sea Star Aquarium in Germany. This story made me laugh. This Otto the octopus is a little troublemaker, and I think it's great. So what happened was, night after night, they were having mysterious blackouts. The electricians couldn't figure it out. The staff couldn't figure it out at the Sea Star Aquarium. So they said, this is a serious matter because the short was shorting out the electricity to the whole aquarium and threatened the lives of all the other animals when the pump ceased to work. So it turns out, get this, between juggling hermit crabs, I would love to see them juggle a hermit crab, completely rearranging his tank to make it better, suit his own taste. This guy even throws rocks at the tank glass. He has even began a life of crime by stealing the aquarium scrubbers, and then he tried to clean his exhibit from the inside, and he decided not to give them back. He found the ingenuity, time, will, and opportunity to climb onto the rim of his tank. He then discovered he was big enough to swing onto the edge of his tank and shoot out a carefully directed jet of water, thus shorting out the overhead lighting at the aquarium. Look, that's like James Bond stuff right there. This guy needs his own TV show. All right. It turns out the aquarium staff had trained Otto to aim and squirt water, but at the visitors. Really? At the visitors? Okay. But not at the lights. He normally loves to play with the visitors by spraying water on them, which keeps him busy. But during the off season, he's the octopus allegedly has complained about the lack of visitors, and he's obviously bored out of his mind. So, here, watch this. Watch an octopus right here. In honor of Otto, watch him open a jar. There's a crab in the jar. This is amazing. He's probing. He's trying to see what he knows that crab's in there. Watch what he does. Boom. And then down he goes. Just collapses himself right into the jar and gets that crab. And these things are smart. They're so smart. That's the story of Otto the octopus and 4 other really weird stories. But thank you for coming. I hope you enjoyed the weirdness. I hope to see you next time on Vinny's Aquatics.